What's good, gamers? Akalon here, and of course, welcome back to each and every one of you. So today's video is actually not just my own concoction. It's actually thanks to one of the commenters on the previous video about Sargeras' plan and all sorts of stuff. If you want to watch that, you can actually go check that out. It's the video that I uploaded just before this one. But it actually comes from a comment on that video by Peter Kruger. So Peter, I want to give you a massive shout out for this. When I rate this comment, I'm not going to share the comment because that would be literally leading with the lead, and that's just terrible storytelling. But when I rate this comment, it was like things just started to click, and I was like, oh wow, that is interesting. So let's talk about Anduin's role in the War Within, but also where has Anduin been? What has Anduin been up to? Now, for a very quick recap, and I'm not going to spend too much time on the Shadowlands because, well, we all know how that went. That was not a fun time for anyone. But just before the events of the Shadowlands, Anduin showcases elements of void corruption. If you read the book, Shadows Rising, you find right in the second to last chapter, Anduin has a bit of void running from his ear to his shoulder, down his arm, and into the palm of his hand. And there it dissipates. We don't know if that is actually going to be a storyline that will be explored, but it was still a very interesting storyline to actually have introduced to World of Warcraft, and it gives you somewhere to go in the future if you want to do something really cool or even something really dark with Anduin's character. Of course, then we have Sylvanas breaking open the sky, going to the Shadowlands, to the Maw. If we only knew how bad that place would turn out to be, and I'm not talking about evil storytelling stuff, I'm actually just talking about the gameplay of the Maw. Now, she opens the Maw, and in true fashion, she sends out a bunch of more Sworn to capture the leaders of the Alliance and the Horde. At the time, though, all of us thought that the leaders of the Alliance and the Horde were simply captured because, well, it would weaken the Alliance and the Horde. They didn't have their main leaders, and so the people that would now be taking over are really, generally speaking, advisors. They're not actually people that are making the decisions. But then we start learning a bunch of interesting things. Zuvol seems to be testing these leaders. He seems to be running taste after taste after taste, looking for something. We have Thrall confirming this during the campaign. We have Jaina confirming that she would constantly escape and then simply be recaptured. And then again, the tests would continue. They'd be tasting her. And it's almost as if the escape over and over of Jaina was also part of the test, trying to see something, trying to find something, trying to maybe unlock something. But all of these tests just appear to be going absolutely nowhere until we finally finish the, very, very long intro campaign. And now we have to leave because apparently the Maw is inescapable, but not so inescapable. And in the end, it wasn't inescapable at all. But never mind the storytelling problems of Shadowlands. I promise, guys, I promise. I won't keep harking on about the storytelling flaws of the Shadowlands. But anyway, so we're at this first one relic. We need to open the first one relic, and Zuvol and his armies arrive. Now we, the children of Azeroth, are the only ones for some reason that these relics will respond to. That's a whole different video for a whole different time. But in order to do this, we need time. We need Anduin and the other leaders of the Alliance and the Horde to buy us said time. And Anduin does this by channeling the light. And Anduin's final words is, even here, the light still answers. This triggers Zuvol. You can see it. And I don't mean triggered as, no, this triggers something in him. He looks at Anduin and he goes, interesting. And suddenly his search for the leader is over. He no longer needs anyone. He's found the one. From that moment forward, we see Zuvol hyper-focused on Anduin. He actually allows us to capture all of the other leaders that he had, seemingly not interested in killing them. And I don't mean allow. We obviously had to do some work for it. But it was clear that he could have just killed them because he had no longer any use for them. And considering the fact that Zuvol really likes souls because he likes making these weapons out of souls, he could have used those souls. Jaina would make a pretty strong rune weapon or a mon weapon. Bane, for all his uselessness in the Shadowlands, is also actually quite a strong character. Thrall, shit. If you made a weapon out of Thrall, you could call the elements wherever the hell you wanted. So clearly Zuval could do a lot of things with these souls, but it's like he just didn't care. As far as he was concerned, he found what he was looking for. It's one of the reasons, by the way, why I feel like the story for Shadowlands didn't actually play out the way that it was supposed to, and that the changes made to the story actually just ended up making a lot of things feel a lot more weird, because sort of things started pointing one way, but then they happened a completely different way. Okay, I'm done. Sorry. So now he's focused on Anduin, but he wants Anduin to accept that what he wants is actually what's good, and Anduin should be seeing that. Or maybe that's Sylvanas. Maybe that wasn't Zuval. Maybe Zuval from the beginning had no problem just forcing Anduin to follow his lead. Maybe it was Sylvanas that was like, no, we need to give him a choice, because if I can reason with him, if I can show him the truth, then he may come to our side. Which again suggests to you that even at that time, Sylvanas had a very different idea about what they were actually doing. It wasn't just to kill everyone. It wasn't just to end the universe. Sylvanas' ideas were very, very different. And she genuinely believed that if she could explain to Anduin, if she could show Anduin, then they could actually get together and Anduin would actually see the logic of her plan. Now, I do want to point out, just at this moment in time, Anduin did actually see the logic in her plan. Anduin listened to her, and you could hear Anduin never told her, you're absolutely nuts, that's not the problem. Anduin's only objection to what Sylvanas was saying was that Zuval isn't any better. Zuval will do the exact same thing. So clearly, at least to some extent, the things that Sylvanas was saying made sense to Anduin. He believed it. He couldn't help but to. And if you listen to Sylvanas' words, they do ring very, very true. It doesn't sound like she was trying to deceive him. It really does sound like she was giving him her honest thoughts. And this was making an impact on Anduin. Anduin's one problem was that Zuval would literally do the exact same thing. Zuval isn't actually looking to set the universe free from all the powers and the gods that want to play with our lives. Zuval just wants to be the god that plays with our lives. And Anduin wasn't incorrect in that. It actually shows an incredible amount of intelligence and character growth on Anduin's side, because he's no longer the sort of immature, childish, naive boy that believes peace above all other things. He's able to now spot when things are going a little bit awry. But anyways, I'm making this story way longer than what it needs to be. Sorry, guys, I'm getting this. Oh, sorry. When I talk about Shadowlands, things just happen, and I have all these tangents of places that I want to go to, because there is actually so much that have not been talked about in the Shadowlands, just because of how bad it was as an expansion, that I think most people just gave up, myself included, on even trying to make sense of that lore. And so now, whenever I do recap it, there's just so many things that pop up to me, like, oh, I should actually talk about this. No, that's not what this video is about. Well, no, that's not what this video is about. Okay, let's get back track. So Anduin eventually is forced, and Zuval creates his next ultimate weapon. Blizzard, in what can only be described as a lapse in intelligence, decides not to call it Shalomon when it should absolutely have been called Shalomon. So that, for that reason, I will be referring to that blade as Shalomon. Zuval creates it. He creates it with a soul. The soul, of course, is that of Arthas. Now, this is where the comment comes in from Peter Kruger. And Peter literally writes, what if Arthas' soul merged with Anduin from the Mournblade they wielded together? Would explain the battle within and the stance in the trailer. When I read that, I was like, how did I not think of this? How did that escape me? Now, we've been on a massive bend with Morn weapons lately. I've been researching a shit ton for a new video coming up, and the video yesterday deals very much with Gorobol and Teshalak and, Sargeras and the sword and everything else. But let's just quickly go over what a Mournblade is. Shalamon is made with the soul of Arthas. Mournblades are people in weapon form. It's literally turning the strength of a person into an actual weapon of war. Mournblades have very, very varied effects. Some Mournblades can act absolutely independently of their wielders. In other words, they have far more sentience than, for example, Frostmourne did. Frostmourne was very powerful, but it required a wielder. It could not do things on its own. Shallowmourne strikes me as incredibly similar to Frostmourne, and that also kind of speaks to, I may actually just have figured out inadvertently while making this video, why Frostmourne was made in the first place. Remember, Frostmourne was made by extracting the plans of this Mourne weapons, from the mind of the Primus, or the Primus. We'll talk about that another day. But the weapon schematics is extracted from the Primus, and Frostmourne is born. Now, when we look at what Frostmourne does, whenever Frostmourne kills someone, it absorbs the soul of those that it kills. But it can also choose. It doesn't have to absorb the souls. When it absorbs these souls, it becomes stronger, and it actually learns from this person. When we look at Shallowmourne, the first instance of Shallowmourne's usage is with Carestia from Bastion. What happens after Anduin stabs her with the blade? The blade absorbs her essence, her sigil. Or, if you are a construct and the only thing that gives you life is your sigil, your soul. Now, there's some logical inconsistencies in this one, because when Zuval's sigil is removed, he actually just becomes an inanimate robot-looking thing. Carestia's sigil is removed and nothing happens. So I'm not entirely sure why that works the way that it is, but the sigils are highly suggested to be their souls, their essence in a way. It's what gives them their purpose. I think that's why Frostmourne was made. I think that was the original plan for Frostmourne. And now it sort of throws a massive wrench in the works as to why Frostmourne made its way to Sargeras. Originally, we all just assumed that, well, Denathrius worked with Zuval, and Zuval wanted the blade with Sargeras. But what if that isn't the case? What if, before Denathrius worked with Zuval, Denathrius actually did not think that Zuval was on the right track? Denathrius actually believed that there may be someone better for this, and Denathrius stole the blade, because he knew what Zuval wanted to do. Zuval wanted to use that blade, create a champion, send that champion into the Shadowlands, create all of the sigils, take those sigils to the sepulchre of the first ones, and then dominate the universe with all of the sigils of all of the eternal ones of the Shadowlands. And Denathrius was like, fuck it, I'm one of these eternal ones. I don't want to do that. Go steal it, my children, and then take it to this other nutcase that wants to destroy the whole galaxy with it, right? And so that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, just a little bit of a thing here. But all right, so Mournblades also have, and again, we kind of have to look to Frostmourne for this, because the reason I'm telling you what Frostmourne did is because Shallowmourne seems to do exactly the same thing. It appears as if after the breakage or the destruction of Frostmourne, Zuval needed another weapon that does exactly the same thing as Frostmourne. So he took the previous wielder of Frostmourne, pretty much the only one that would have the knowledge left of how this blade operates, and then he would put this soul into this new blade, into Shallowmourne. And now Shallowmourne becomes Frostmourne. It is the same blade. It does the exact same thing. Now, what did Frostmourne do when Arthas first started wielding it? It started stealing his soul. It started merging with him. It started whispering to Arthas. There was an endless connection between Frostmourne and Arthas. Arthas was losing himself more and more as he wielded the blade, and the blade was merging with Arthas, basically becoming an extension of the blade. What if that's what Shallowmourne did? Peter is probably not wrong here. Remember, when we finally see the 35 anima of Arthas, that's all that's left after Anduin was able to break free from Shalamon. But there's no evidence that that is all that was placed into the blade to begin with. See, that's the interesting thing. When Arthas dies, we see Uther coming down or up or wherever the fuck the Shadowlands is, picking up Arthas' soul, taking it and throwing it into the maw. Just yeeting it into the maw. That is a full soul that went into the maw. Zuval from there scoops up the soul and places it inside his little vault, keeping it safe because he wants something from the soul. The soul needs to be a weapon at some point. At no point is there ever an expressly stated thing that Arthas had parts of his soul burnt off, that Arthas' soul was being destroyed by Zuval, or that there are other particles of Arthas' soul throughout the galaxy scattered about. Arthas' full soul was absorbed into the maw. And what little would have been left, or may have been stolen by Frostmourne, would have gone to the jailer anyways. So, the fact that only 35 anima remains of that soul, where the hell did the rest go? Well, maybe into its wielder. Maybe that's why Anduin has spent the last expansion, almost two, wandering about, searching for something, searching for purpose, searching for meaning. Because Anduin is no longer just Anduin. Anduin is now Arthas reincarnated. A part of Arthas is within Anduin, perhaps guiding him, perhaps trying to free himself. Perhaps Anduin has a war within. Remember, this is the name of the expansion, the war within. We see Anduin there. He is the main guy. What if that is the war within for Anduin? Arthas, the once great Menethil, the overwhelming majority of his soul stuck inside Anduin, trying to break free, perhaps not even understanding what the hell is going on in the first place. Kind of like a cyberpunkish awakening moment sort of thing. What impacts does that have on the story moving forward? How does that impact Anduin and Anduin's character? What does Anduin look like with the knowledge, the skill, and the drive of Arthas? This could actually be a very good thing. This could actually be Anduin really stepping into his moment, into the strength of his character, because Arthas was an incredibly strong character. He was an incredibly strong man. He had flaws, yes, but interestingly enough, the flaws that Arthas had wasn't really, or aren't really, the flaws that Anduin had. In fact, the problem for Anduin is actually one of Arthas' greatest strengths. Anduin tends to think a lot less of himself. Arthas is a little bit arrogant. He sort of believes in himself maybe a little bit too much. He has maybe a little bit too much drive. And that may actually be a good thing. Maybe he props up Anduin and makes Anduin this absolute boss of a leader. Anyways, I wanted to share this with you because I thought it was a very interesting theory. Yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Remember, for $1 a month, you too can keep the channel free from sponsorships that want to sell you shit that you do not need. Patreon links are in the description down below. To all of the patrons, thank you so much for your support already. It means the absolute world to me. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, be kind to each other, be good to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.